In today's video, we'll be giving a realistic assessment of how high Bitcoin can still rise. First, of course, we need to talk a bit about the current charts because we've broken through certain zones that aren't looking good. It's really unfortunate that we've fallen below this level. Even worse, we've dropped below it in a sustained way. This here is the 50 EMA on a weekly basis, and it's very bad that we haven't managed to fight our way back yet. However, that doesn't necessarily mean anything right now. But if you look at the past, you can see that we've broken below it before, but we've always managed to recover relatively quickly. And that's always been pretty important. We also broke through it in a sustained way here, but then had a nice bounce, although after that we couldn't manage to stay above it properly. It remains interesting here, but what's extremely important is that we haven't broken through this zone in a sustained way. Specifically, it's the 100 EMA, because if we had broken through that in a sustained way, it would really have been the signal for a move into a bear market. That means this is a support zone, we've held it well, and from here we can definitely see a recovery again. And before we talk about what price targets we can expect in the future, we also need to discuss whether that was it for now. Because generally speaking, I tell you, take a look at it. Is this really just a counter move like we've seen time and again? A correction of nearly 30%, completely typical in a bull run. We've had that every time here. Take a look at the correction here, 32%. People thought it was over then too. In this cycle, we've already had 3 such corrections, and this is simply a third additional correction. Yeah, and what can I say? Step by step, we're climbing. This is a long-term thing, and we're continuously building up here because, here we made a higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low. Step by step, we're steadily moving up bit by bit. That's definitely a good sign, which definitely means we're still in an uptrend the whole time. We'll stay that way until we fall below here. If we were to fall below here now, we would simply have broken this uptrend with this event, because in the end, we just have a lot of volume in this cycle. Just take a look at the future open interest here. There's an extreme amount of leverage in the market. We have 3 to 4 times as much leverage in the market here as we did during the peak times in the last cycle. That's the reason why the exchanges and market makers are making a lot of money right now. That's why they're trying to stretch this cycle out as much as possible, because we've had so much leverage in the market, nothing like this in the last cycle. That's why they're trying to stretch the cycle out as far as possible. And in between, there are always shakeouts like this one, where of course the exchanges and market makers also make good money. That was a classic shakeout. But what's good is that we've currently slipped into negative territory with the funding rate. That means people are extremely pessimistic, and you know what that means. When everyone is pessimistic, you should often do the opposite. We're slowly reaching that point now, which is a good sign. Similarly, we can also see that the Coinbase Premium Index has turned positive again. Also a very, very good sign because the Coinbase Premium Index ultimately shows how smart money is acting here. And even here, people are currently buying again. All in all, of course, there are many charts, but there are simply some charts that say it all. You can really rely on them, and this is one of those charts, for example. The USDT transfer between exchanges. And here we can clearly see the higher we go, the more Tether is transferred out because in exactly these areas, people are simply selling their Bitcoin holdings and instead have Tether, which they then send away. So with every upward trend, we see Tether being sent out. That's how it was here. That's how it was here. We really had a nice upward trend. We definitely saw these spikes. And now, last time, we also had these kinds of spikes the whole time. We rose sharply and there were large volumes of USDT being sent out from the exchanges. The lower we are at the bottom, the higher the inflows of Tether we get on the exchanges, just like here, because that means that people, the whales, smart money, are coming back, and exactly at the point where we're as close to the bottom as possible, they're returning to the market and accumulating. And that's exactly what we had here, for example, but we're also seeing it right now. Right now, we've seen the biggest spike ever here. That means a massive amount of USDT has just been sent to the exchanges again, potentially to buy back Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies, an extremely positive sign. And purely from a chart analysis perspective, I've already shown you this before. As long as we don't fall below $65,000 here, we're still in an uptrend and in wave 5. Because according to Elliott wave analysis, in the last cycle we had wave 1 here, then the corrective wave 2, the bear market. Now that was wave 3, this here was probably wave 4, where we pulled back again. And from here, it can move into wave 5. And here it's really crucial. If we break the old all-time high and don't fall below $65,000 beforehand, the next target is $170,000 and beyond. It really depends. Do we break sustainably below here or do we break sustainably above here? But overall, it looks pretty good that this is wave 4 for now, and as long as we don't fall below here, we'll see wave 5. And with that, we really have price targets in the bull run of $170,000 and higher. And that's calculated based on the Elliott wave methodology. Because generally, you just have to say that in this cycle, we haven't even broken through our total 2 or total 3 chart yet. That's the entire market cap of the crypto market, and it would just be completely illogical for us to end this cycle without a new all-time high. That would ultimately mean the failure of this crypto market. And I don't believe that. But what also fundamentally plays a role in all these price matters is simply the fact that gold is at an all-time high and the S&P 500 is at an all-time high, and you have to understand why these two assets are at an all-time high. Smart money knows exactly what's happening right now in the US government. Next, we're going to see a huge influx of liquidity into the markets. Restrictive monetary policy is coming to an end, and as a result, new capital will flood the markets. And because that's happening, investors are already moving into assets that can't be inflated, like gold and also stocks, including the S&P 500. People are deliberately moving into stocks or gold because they can't be inflated, since no one wants to lose purchasing power. But in the near future, the US dollar and the euro will lose purchasing power because we're simply getting a lot of new capital in the markets. And that means the smart money has already prepared, has already invested in hard assets like gold, and this will only intensify in the coming months. Because if gold benefits from this, Bitcoin will benefit even more dramatically. For the first time, we're seeing that both gold and stocks are performing well. But here we can clearly see that there's a huge gap between the traditional markets and Bitcoin. And Bitcoin still has to catch up to that. Bitcoin still has quite a bit of catching up to do, and it will do so. And once Bitcoin starts to catch up here, it will get an even bigger share of the pie. I mean, just imagine gold has gained trillions of US dollars in market capitalization in just 2 months. That means within 2 months, gold has gained as much market cap as the entire crypto market isn't even worth yet. Just to give you an idea of how small we still are with Bitcoin in comparison. And I'm telling you, the smart money has already positioned itself in gold and stocks because they simply know what's going to happen next. And that simply represents our future as well. It just reinforces for us what is still possible in the near future. And that's extremely positive, and I hope you see it as positive too. Otherwise, I would say, friends, in my opinion, we can definitely still see 160, 170,000 US dollars for Bitcoin in this cycle or even higher. That would still be possible unless we lose the support at $65,000. And with that, friends, as always, I want to thank you very much and say see you next time. Ciao.